Hey, thanks for joining us again today. Today we're going to talk about another aspect of travel risk management, which is unlawful government detention. With this group of gentlemen on the couch, I'm just curious, how do companies look at this type of risk differently than some other risks that you might see with international travel or as an organization? How do you look at that?
I mean, it seems quite often they don't look at it, which is part of the problem. They're generally concerned with criminals and stuff. They're concerned with, terrorists, civil unrest. They're concerned about the natural disasters and stuff like that. And what they generally don't find is that you're much more likely to be detained by a foreign government than you are to get snagged up by a terrorist or cartels. With the politics in the world today, there's a lot of countries that would love to have some sort of leverage against the United States. So if that means you represent a large corporation or a large company, you're coming into that country to do some business, and they might be able to snag you up and try to get some leverage from you or exploit you or whatever that is. It's very, very likely that can happen. We could talk for hours about all the different cases that's happened. So I guess to your point is, organizations need to understand that there is an extremely high likelihood that they could be detained by a foreign government and be prepared to do so.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, for some folks, they might be aware that this issue can happen, but then it's at what point is an individual detained? Trying to unpack that or not having that understanding before something like this could actually happen can create more problems in some instances. For example, if you're in an airport and you're going through a checkpoint, you're going through customs or whatever, and perhaps that individual is just simply having a bad day and they want to pull you aside and ask you some questions and just delay your trip a little bit, you're not really detained. There's usually an hourly threshold, which I actually don't recall off the top of my head what that is. Is it 72 hours?
Generally speaking, 72 hours.
72 hours.
The majority of countries.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, there's a time frame, or, it's going to look, you're actually arrested. You're actually brought into some sort of formal process that is representative of, what we're familiar with here in the States. And so, you can get yourself into more hot water if you try to unlock capabilities where if you're pulled into secondary questioning and you want to try to unlock some capability from the U.S. government, which is asking for your consular representative, well, they'll be like, well, you're not detained. What are you suggesting? What are you trying to get at here? And you're creating yourself more hot water in these different instances. So just kind of understanding the spectrum that is, detention is also important. So you're not creating more problems for yourself.
Oh, that's great insight.
It's not just some of the countries that would be more likely that you would expect, right? It's not just China. It's not just Ukraine or Russia or Venezuela. It can be something simple as any country up in Europe. You can go to Switzerland. We had a case recently where this person went to Switzerland and had absolutely no idea what she was doing, but ends up going back and forth with the person as she's trying to get into the country to the point where I'm surprised that she got out of there at all.
Yeah.
But Switzerland, you wouldn't expect that, but that's kind of what happened. So having some awareness going into that of what it is that you're doing, who it is you're dealing with, and it can happen anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Even if you now, granted, a very high profile individual, but it's also not a respecter of persons. It can be so much of a political game. The incident I'm thinking of is the reporter or journalist, whatever you call him, Tucker Carlson, was coming out of Israel recently, and they pulled him aside and they had some questions for him. And, his perspective, from what I understand, is it was tied to why he was there in the country. But, even, high profile individuals, you could be your average traveler. It doesn't really matter because there's many motivations why these kinds of things can happen. Maybe you actually do have an issue. You have something in your bag. You have something that you're not supposed to have with you. You're breaking a law. I think it's Singapore. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can't take chewing gum in country. So it's like things that are seemingly innocuous, you might be breaking a law, or spitting on the street, or, you know, it varies by country, obviously, but not having that understanding, you could be getting yourself into some serious hot water. On the other side, you could be getting yourself into the political machine. You know, we have our country, or the United States versus another country, and there's a political issue going on, and people get caught up within that.
Yeah, or you could have, you know, business influences within governments also. You know, you take the case of the IT company North America, the two individuals traveling, two businessmen traveling to China. They end up getting detained by China and questioned for quite some time, and they end up spending a few days being detained by China. But after the fact, and what they believed is that it was actually a competitor of theirs, of their IT company, that had collaborated with the Chinese government to detain them. So whether or not it was to get, you know, proprietary information from them, or just maybe scare them out of business, whatever it happened to be, but that's what they believe it was. But there was definitely that connection between the business and the government that was what got them held up.
So what do we tell travelers, man? Like, you know, the risk is out there. We you know, commonly we're teaching people, all right, if you get yourself into this situation, here's how you kind of navigate it. What's kind of some of the prevailing guidance we can set people up with if they're finding themselves in this situation?
The prevailing guidance, first I would say back that up just a little bit and have prevailing guidance for the organization. So the organization has the responsibility to do the research for them, make sure that, you know, something as simple as like, you know, like the right paperwork to get in the country if you're going in the country for work. That looks a lot different than if you're getting a tourist visa to go into the country. So if you're showing up and you got, you know, 2 laptops and 2 cell phones and no work visa, and they start asking you questions like, why do you have 2 cell phones? Like, well, this is my work phone, this is my personal phone. Well, then you just open yourself up to a whole different type of question.
Why do you have a vacation visa then?
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so are you here on business? What business is it? And you just open your line up to that and have that knowledge. So the point being, like, one, the organization has that protocol, that the stuff in place so that travelers know what to do when they're following it, and then bring down the individual levels. Like, okay, well, know your company's protocols going into it. Make sure you have the right paperwork. It's something as simple as the right visa going into the right country. And don't incriminate yourself. It seems so silly, but government, like, that's the job of an interrogator. Like, they're going to try to trip you up, you know, especially if they want leverage and they're digging for something. It's actually quite easy to do. But there's no need for that. So just make sure that you have your story straight. You know exactly what it is you're going to do. So when you are dealing with a foreign government, you have an answer. It's prepared. You know exactly what you're supposed to say, and don't veer from that. And at any time, like, if we're going to give one piece of advice to somebody traveling overseas and they find themselves in a situation with the government, is you've got to talk to your embassy. If I'm going to say one thing, it's like, demand to see your embassy and continue to demand it until you see them.
Yeah.
That's just the biggest piece of information, advice we could give to anybody traveling abroad that finds themselves in a bad situation.
And then don't say anything else.
That's it.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything else. I mean, they're going to continue asking questions most likely, but once you hit that threshold, there's no reason to argue anything. There's no reason to go into stories, or if they're accusing you of things, you know, however you can stay in that space of just saying, I need to talk to this individual. You know, it's
don't be rude about it.
It's simple, but not necessarily easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other kind of low-hanging fruit, that wisdom that you might want to share with aspiring travelers or folks that might see themselves jammed up like that?
Yeah, I mean, as weird as it may sound, if you're actually detained, there's a reason for it. There's an agenda there. So you can safely assume that they're going to be trying to use you or get something from you. Now, do you have something to withhold? You may not, and that's okay. That's not the point, that they may be pulling something from you. Maybe you don't have something of value, in other words. That doesn't mean that they may not try to use you in a manner to make you look like you are of value. That's where you get wrapped up into this machine. So just recognizing that and not allowing yourself to get into hot water. Try to stay away from sensitive topics, i.e. those topics that you wouldn't discuss at the Thanksgiving table with your family. You all right?
Feisty.
Oh boy.
Yeah, for those watching, we have a beautiful dog with us, so you get to participate in that. But anyway, don't talk about those things that are at the Thanksgiving table, right? If they're going to try to get something from you, make you say something that you may not want to say, and you will probably make mistakes, and that's okay. But just understand that the less you say, the less you do, the more you do, and just keep it simple. Because if they're going to try to accuse you or try to get something from you, it takes your participation to make that happen. So if you are apparently compliant but not giving any of that information that they're seeking, you're probably going to be okay.
So don't dig your own hole, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Do your best to...
Even if you happen to agree with it, even if it's a political statement that they would say that you happen to agree with, it's best to not engage with that. Right? Stick to what it is that you know. You need to talk to the embassy, and that's your best bet. The embassy's there. That's what they're there for, is to come help out people in that situation. So they'll get there. They'll help you out.
Yep. And even if you do break a law, let's say you do happen to commit a crime and everything else, that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to confess and everything else. Like, same thing. Like, your rights are going to be very different in another country. And it doesn't mean that the United States government is going to parachute in and pull you out. They may not be able to, but that does, again, don't dig your own hole. Don't say the things that are going to make matters worse for you. If you're offered an attorney, take advantage of that. Maybe you don't have the ability to use one that's of your preference. They give you a list and that's what you get. That's kind of standard protocol. And so recognizing what it looks like to get into the legal machine of another country, you are subject to their laws. And, as much as we have this conception, if we're traveling from the U.S. to other countries where like the government will just be there to get you every single time, we can help out with a ton, but you have to be prepared to, be there for a little while. You're subject to their laws.
And that brings up another point. Like, if you actually do end up detained or even imprisoned or something in a foreign country, like, we have an agency specifically for that. We have the SPIA, which is the Special Envoy to Hostage Affairs, which is a specific agency within the United States government that has been about for about 10 years now, I think.
Yeah, 2015, I think it was established. Yeah.
And their job is hostage affairs around the world. So if you have a loved one or something that ends up in a situation like that, that's who you would reach out to. You'd reach out to the Office of the SPIA and speak to them, let them know what's going on, get in contact with embassies, and that's who would track it down.
Oh, it's a great conversation. Thanks for especially the useful tidbits. I think that people find that fascinating, and you guys have a ton of experience, so thanks for sharing that. As far as everybody else, thanks for joining us. If we can help you at CPPS with anything travel risk management related, training program development, awareness programs, please feel free to reach out to us. Obviously, you can reach us at cpps.com. Online presence, you can like and share these videos. Obviously, we'll have more videos for you as well with some more great content. You can sign up for our newsletter, The Centerfold. Either way, reach out if we can ever be assistance, and thanks again for watching.